Hello out there in cryptocurrency and welcome to the Hour of Power. Testing my speed today, make sure we don't have any hiccups like we did on our first Hour of Power. Yeah, we should be okay. All right. Hello everybody. Keyman graphic. That's always fun. Bitcoin 9K. Hey, it's Friday. Yeah, you know, Gareth, Friday loses all meaning. Pretty much every day name loses all meaning when you trade cryptocurrencies. Every day is a Monday in cryptocurrency land, ladies and gentlemen. Every day is a Monday or a Friday, depending on which way you look at it. Or a Friday, depending on which way you look at it. So let's take a look here. It's a dead cat bounce, says Deval. Probably correct. We broke the 8,400 mark. That is also correct. I noticed that as well. We did go above 8,400. Volume was pretty good on this up thrust. We are still, however, underneath this bear flag. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to trade for longer term, I guess I can always come back. We are still below the 200-day moving average on the daily chart. I would not be bullish at all before we really get over this 200-day moving average. And I think that would really have to happen on quite a bit of volume. So if we look at the daily chart here, reading some comments here. So, all right, guys, this is the Power Hour. I'm going to do some general market stuff. If you guys have specific market questions, strategy, portfolio questions, things of that nature, please go ahead and ask them. That's what the Power Hour is definitely for. How can you access the trading courses? No one can access them as of right now. I'm still working on the website. I have a lot of stuff going on right now, so kind of hard to. I can't focus all my energy really where I need to for you guys, unfortunately. But I'm working on it. Hamant says, "Sorry, have you answered this? But how will the paid sessions be different from these ones?" Not a lot different. Basically, what I'm going to do is the Power Hour is meant to help the users get better at whatever they need help with, whether it's, you know, the psychology around getting over FOMO or FUD or actual investment strategies during a during a trade. Like if you want to buy Bitcoin, we can talk about like how to buy Bitcoin, you know, if you need to put those strategies together, if you want a second opinion on something that you're thinking. So that's really what the Power Hour is about. There'll also be a lot less people. I'm not anticipating, 100 people in the Power Hour. I'm only anticipating probably like 30, 40 people to be in the Power Hour. So we should be able to have much more pointed conversations, much more specifics, which is what it's for. It's meant to be a very specific time. So there you go. Do I need someone to help with my website? It'd be nice. I can do it. I can do it. I just need the time. So how can you be a member of the site? So you can be a member of the site. There's not much going on the site right now. If you go, well, you guys are talking about the site. We'll go ahead and take a look at it. If you go to Real Crypto, I got the Power Hour up here as a link. You can register here for the Power Hour if you wanted to. I just asked a couple questions to get to know you guys individually, your net worth. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so this is it for the Power Hour. And then the Power Hour, you guys will be sent out a link about how to join that. We may do that on Google Hangouts, actually. Or we'll go ahead, Extreme Stream. Hey, from Germany there, buddy. How you doing? But yeah, so you guys asked about the trading courses as well. Yeah, if you go to trading courses and click on something, it does ask you to log in. Actually, I think I have... yeah, that particular one doesn't have anything in it yet. So, yeah, you must enroll in the course to access content. So, yeah, I don't actually have a way for you to enroll in these yet. I know it's a little misleading. I apologize for that. I should probably put up a splash page or maybe just take this off. But I did want people to look at it to see if they would be interested. I just haven't quite gotten there yet. So, Any market questions here, ladies and gentlemen? When will the bullish trend come back? Alexander asks. So that's a good question. So let's do this. We've had, looks like 2 days of some rallying here, and the volume on this down day isn't horrible. And I haven't done a bar count yet. I actually meant to, but you know, kids stop you from doing a lot of things. I haven't done a bar count, but I think a lot of this that volume on that bar was on the downside. So I don't think we've broken the uptrend. But a lot of people have been pointing out this larger falling wedge right here. So we're coming up to the top of this falling wedge. I think we can line it up like, I like that line. Some people line it up like this, which I don't mind either. Okay, so this is kind of a smaller falling wedge, and it's kind of following this pattern right now. And the breakout of the falling wedge, if we did have higher volume, would be bullish, actually. That would be bullish. My only problem with this would be the fact that we don't have a low volume scenario really to fall out of. Typically, market trends change on low volume areas, not high volume areas. So if you guys did want to trade for the long side, I would wait until this trend line is broken. I would wait till this trend line is broken. There is a support line, or more of a support area. I'm on the GDAX right now, so let's go ahead and draw a rectangle. I never draw a rectangle, so I always do it wrong. There's kind of an area here. I'm going to call it right there, and we're in the area right now where this market could turn around. This is kind of your resistance area. I don't think it's one specific level, and I think it varies by the exchange. So I think it varies by the exchange, but this is the level where you could expect a possible turn down. Even though we have decent volume here, if you keep everything in perspective, it's still in line with the volume trend. Okay, it's still in line with the volume trend. So you know, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going bullish right now just because of a couple of green bars. I mean, the overall trend is still to the downside. Ahmed, I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you doing? How are you doing? Coinbase is partnered with Barclays Bank here in UK and going live March 21st. You recommend using GDAX to sell large quantities. I don't know what you're referring to there, Ash. Are you trying to short there, or... Not sure what's going on there. Last couple of days I've been following the charts. It went down to 76.50 2 days ago, then 79.50 today. Do you think the low is 82.50 today, or is that pattern irrelevant? Trying to follow the pattern you're trying to put out there, Arpit. Arpit probably is more correct. Not quite. I don't quite understand your question, Arpit. Sorry about that, buddy. Hey, August, Og. I'm just gonna call you Og. Hi, Og. Thanks for joining. Do you agree this trend looks very similar to the 2nd February 1-hour candles? I'm on 2-hour. That's close enough. February 2nd. Oh, this type of a pattern where we have this big sell-off. Yeah, a little bit of similarity. A little bit of similarity. I sound more optimistic. Are the lowest point now a bit higher, around 7K? I don't know if I sound optimistic. The charts are pointing to, you know, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, a little bit, not a lot, in terms of this declining wedge, and we're up here towards this resistance area, and it always seems bullish when you get towards resistance and bearish when you get towards support. That's kind of the nature of the beast. But sometimes support and resistance breaks. So So Ahmed, yeah, so you can go back to the website, Ahmed. Go to the website. At the top is a Real Crypto Power Hour. That's the live session we're in today. This week is kind of like the my test bed for it, just making sure that things work and stuff of that nature. People want to partake in it. So, but you can sign up over here, Ahmed, right there, buddy. Oh, Ash, you want to sell like 16 BTC, GDAX be suitable for doing so? Yeah, I think so. If you're going to sell that many Bitcoins, you probably want to layer it and have a decent sell strategy. Sell on some bounces, things of that nature, if you wanted to get out. And I think if you were to sell a little bit, oh, thanks, Ahmed. Thanks, buddy. I think if you were to sell a little bit, if you are planning on getting out of the market, then I would definitely, these little bounces here are perfect. Like top of this range, you could sell a little bit, and then if we bounce higher, pick your points. Look for the reversal patterns. I think I mentioned yesterday to someone that said he wanted to short. He had a trading plan. It was a great question. Let me dig down to the 15-minute, and we'll go to yesterday where we were in yesterday's market cycle. So we're now at 16. So we're at 16. I just want to make sure I get this time correct. Okay, so we were talking, yeah, it was after the drop. It was right in this area that we were talking about this. And he said he wanted to go short Bitcoin. Who is this? Guys, I'm sorry. I think I actually have to take this phone call. Be back in a minute. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so yesterday we talked about a gentleman or lady, I don't know who it was, after this big drop, which was my entry to my short, which would have got stopped out anyway. We were talking right about it here, and what I mentioned was you don't short Bitcoin until it's like an obvious short, right? Like until it starts to break down, because it looked like even though we were down here, we still kind of had a higher low, and we kind of continued that pattern. You could have tried to short here, and he said his stop was 84.50. So by shorting kind of up here versus down here, you get a little bit of a better bang for your buck. Your risk is actually reduced, and that's kind of the same if you're trying to sell a position like that. You want to wait for the bounces. That's kind of how all these bounce failures work. Is these people wait for Bitcoin to float up, then they sell it at a higher price. Thoughts on bullish divergence on the RSI, asks Barbecue. Can you give me a time frame on that? Because on RSI, time frame's everything. Yeah, Ian, you're talking about the large sell-off. It could happen. Anything can happen, my friend. Let's go to the 2 hour. Maybe we'll do a little bit more analysis on that March 2nd area. So what he's referring to is he's saying, hey, do you think maybe we're looking like this area where we had a bear flag, a downtrend? So one thing that's different is that this kind of had a little consolidation area here, and both sell-offs were very extreme. This sell-off here is not as extreme, obviously, as this sell-off. So there's a little less bearishness in this market at this particular moment in time. So this falling wedge, even if it breaks to the upside, we can continue lower. Bitcoin likes to break falling wedges, or wedges generally. There's an example up here of a falling wedge that was broken, that was like a shakeout move. I thought it was up here. Anyway. Yeah, there was a falling wedge. There was a falling wedge that was broken to the. It was a rising wedge actually. It was broken to the downside that continued up. So it likes to fake out some of these patterns, and I think that's just due to the overall very psychological nature of Bitcoin. Where was that? I want to show you guys that example. I don't see it. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So Nicholas, I'll be doing power hours over the weekend. You mentioned this is the last free one. I'm doing them over the weekend. The power hours pretty much are meant to be 7 days a week. It's an hour a day, so I'm gonna do it every day for you guys. And if there is a day or two that I have to miss due to whatever reason, like me going out of town, if I can't take my laptop with me, then I'll definitely let you guys know. But I do have a wedding coming up in June that I'm the groom in, so maybe during that time frame I'll be out for a few days. Maybe. We'll see. Oh, question was specifically money out of GDAX. You do have to go through a couple layers of their verification to get large amounts out of GDAX. So if an altcoin I own goes up 10% while Bitcoin goes down 10%, would I be up 20%? Not if you're looking against it versus a BTC chart. It's already taking that into account. It's taking that into account. Like if you're looking at, like let's go to Binance. If you're looking at, so VChan, I actually just saw a chart said that VChan actually is the most outperforming this year in terms of cryptocurrencies, most of the altcoins, which is pretty cool. Okay, yeah, VChan, the year started here, so you're definitely up in VChan. But if VChan goes up 10% on against Bitcoin, that basically means that VChain itself was flat and Bitcoin dropped 10%. It's a relative. So if you're looking at the US dollar chart like against Litecoin, then yeah, most definitely you'd be up about 20%. So Uppercut says, I've lost all gains and broken even with a little over 4K in the markets. What strategy would you take? If you've been, well, it depends on your strategy. If you've been holding this entire time, and you don't mind getting out flat and taking a little bit of risk off the table, then maybe you contemplate selling or having a point where you would sell. Like say a 5% is an acceptable loss to you, or 10% is an acceptable loss for you, then maybe you go ahead and hold for that. Like this would be a 10% loss if you gave it towards these recent lows, if you wanted to give this a chance to bounce and recover. If not, you can go ahead and sell. And actually, from what I mentioned a little bit ago, we're breaking down a little bit from this resistance area. I mean, the volume on the 2-hour time frame, which just started 16 minutes ago, is actually really small. So it's hard to say it's a breakdown. But when you get towards these resistance areas, if you want to sell up here, that would be a good point to sell. You can FOMO yourself into holding when you, like if you're down here and you say, hey, if Bitcoin gets to 8,500, I'm going to sell, and then it gets to 8,500, you go, oh, it's going to go more. You're FOMOing yourself into holding your position, which you already had a plan for. So you're going against your plan. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're break even here, break even is not a bad trade in terms of trading goes. And while overall we're in a bear market, okay, overall we are in a bear market. And on the daily chart here, like I said, we're living below the 200 period moving average. If you did want to try to get out a little higher, maybe a bounce up to the 200 day, as you can see, that would mean breaking this falling wedge, which would kind of give us a nice rise. And if that happened, that would give the bears a huge area to sell from if that happened. Thwan, if I'm saying that correctly, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. Appreciate the compliment. And of course, all the things go down there. Okay. When would I go back in the market? Well, I'm always in the market. I mean, I'm here. I do hold a little bit of Bitcoin what is it? BitMEX. I do hold a little bit of Bitcoin in my leverage trading account. Other than that, I am in all cash. I will be buying Bitcoin when it looks bullish again, when the market sentiment completely shifts. We're in a bear market, and so I'm just going to sit and be patient and wait. Going through some comments, ladies and gentlemen, trying to get to those specific questions. Like I said, if you guys have specific questions, give me time frames, things of that. Barbecue, bullish divergence, 4 hour. Thanks. There you go. Thank you, sir. Man, I said that a long time ago. I got to keep up with this chat. I don't have an RSI up. Whoops. I have to do this every time. Even though I set this as defaults every time. I have to do this every time. Okay, so you're talking about a bullish divergence on the RSI. Is that what you were talking about, BBQ, if I remember correctly? Bullish divergence happening with the RSI on the 4 hour chart. Okay. Yeah, so what he's referring to is this bullish divergence right here. So let's zoom out and take a look at this. So you're on a 4 hour chart. You want a longer term time perspective. So there's definitely is a bullish divergence on the RSI, and that could lead us, potentially to lead us out of this. But like I said, we're still under the 200-day moving average. We could get a run up into the 200-day moving average. And so here's another bullish divergence right here. So here's a low, and notice how the RSI at these particular levels were flat, indicating relative strength was about the same. Now, that doesn't necessarily imply that we have to bounce. What this means is that at both of these extremes, we had the same amount of bearishness, if you will. There was still the same amount of like selling. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but like you can almost view this as market sentiment. I view this a little bit like sentiment. So if the sentiment is still bearish, but we're lower here, we can get a third low. I've seen that before. I don't do much on the 4 hour time frame, but you can kind of notice, and like it's the same to the upside, right? Like here and here and here and here. Just because you have these bullish, kind of like a bearish divergence, if you will. So like this high and this high in Bitcoin. So all these highs in Bitcoin don't, just because there's a bearish divergence doesn't mean that we're going to go down. Okay, so like there's a bearish divergence in Bitcoin, but there was no sell-off once, there was like no sell-off overall from these peaks. So the divergences are something to notice, but I think the overall price action is more important than the general divergences. What I would do with this particular read is just keep an eye on it, and something I'll do sometimes is I'll draw a trend line here. Okay, maybe a trend line here. Okay, and if you notice that this kind of rhymes a little bit with the chart, just in terms of peaks and valleys in this declining wedge pattern. So like if the divergence breaks to the upside of this pattern before this does, then maybe yes, this will break out of this rising wedge. But if you notice, it's still just kind of going with the rising. It's still going with the wedge. Another tool in the toolbox, my friend. Another tool in the toolbox. If this breaks out before this breaks out, then there's a possibility that we break up this rising wedge, possibly. Losing a lot more comments there. Current Bcash breakout is another bull trap. Volume starts to come in, obviously. Let's take a look at Bcash. You mean this Bcash breakout? So the volume looks pretty good. I wouldn't get involved right at this specific level. It just really looks like it's going to hit this trend line really quick. So I don't ever buy what's called the first pop, ladies and gentlemen. So here's the first pop in this Bcash run since this low. Here's the first pop. Really, like this is the bottoming area. This I would consider a first pop. I would buy this breakout here. But I wouldn't buy anything in the first pop. Just like here, you don't want to be the first one to buy out of the gate, because that leaves you, unless you got in really low, like if for some reason you really decided to take a position down here on this declining volume and then it popped up, great. Well-defined risk, decent reward. But up here I wouldn't get involved because it can always pull back, and you see it pull back time and time again. At what point do you think Bitcoin is not a bubble anymore? Interesting question, Don. So a bubble is not a price. A bubble is a market cycle. Okay? A bubble is a market cycle, and a bubble ends with a parabolic move. We just ended a bubble at Bitcoin 20,000. That was a bubble. Not the bubble, but a bubble. Could have been the bubble. Maybe it never goes higher than 20K, but I was actually thinking about that last night. I don't want to go too deep into that thought, but so PGS, I've heard from another YouTuber I like that the TA of any other cryptocurrency is done in Satoshi levels and not in USD. Is that true? Um, so what you mean to say is that if I were to go to this Bitcoin Cash, I would have to do Bitcoin Cash against BTC for this to be a valid technical analysis perspective, if I think I'm viewing your question correctly. No, that's incorrect. That's completely incorrect. That's his opinion. And if he likes Bitcoin charts, more power to him. That's perfectly fine. Um, there's also another perspective to that. If your whole entire gain, or I'm sorry, if your whole entire strategy is to gain Bitcoin, then it probably does make more sense to only use the Bitcoin charts, because if Bitcoin Cash isn't outperforming Bitcoin, it's going to be hard to see that on the US dollar chart, because this is only comparing it to the dollar. In other words, if Bitcoin Cash is going up 5% and Bitcoin is going up 10%, you wouldn't want to be in Bitcoin Cash, you would want to be in Bitcoin. Okay? You're actually losing Bitcoin. You're actually losing Bitcoin by holding Bitcoin Cash in that instance. So that would be correct if your whole entire gain, I keep saying gain, I think I mean to say game. If your whole entire strategy is to gain Bitcoin, then you definitely should look at it more against the Bitcoin charts. The reason why I use the dollar charts, especially for the larger coins, is because it provides a much more stable, like I can view what Litecoin's doing versus what Ethereum's doing versus what Bitcoin's doing much easier against the US dollar than if I reference all of them, if I reference both of these to Bitcoin and this to the US dollar. Because you can't reference Bitcoin to Bitcoin, it would be flat. All right. So Ahmed says, I'm a swing trader. I usually avoid day trading in bearish markets, so dealing with Bitcoin and Litecoin over the next 7 days, what would you recommend right now being the most profitable? So over the next 7 days, 7 days is a long time. 7 days is a long time in cryptocurrencies. So we're getting a little bit of bullish behavior here, a little bit of buying. So there's Ethereum, low volume buy on Ethereum, low volume buy on Litecoin. I would just stay cash. I mean, it may rise a little bit. It may rise a little bit. Bitcoin's going to rule the roost here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to trade anything, just trade Bitcoin, because everything's going to follow what Bitcoin does. So why be in a second tier coin? How do you explain this mass buy that happened in one moment? How do I explain that? Someone put an order in and with a lot of Bitcoin or a lot of money and just hit the buy button. And then what happens? So here's the depth chart. What happens here is that so this is your, I always get this, I don't know why I get this confused. This is your bid and this is your ask. If you're going to buy Bitcoin, you're going to be blowing through the asks. If you're going to buy 5 Bitcoin worth and just hit the market buy button, here's 1.15. Here's 2. Here's 3, 4. So if you just hit the buy button, you're going to go from 85.44 all the way to, well, like there, what just happened, 85.50. So let's see if level 2 gives, oh, what's series 2? I've never really paid attention to that. So basically what you saw just happened, but if you do that with much more Bitcoin, then obviously it's going to go up much higher, much faster. 85.44, 85.50. Looks like we're jumping up here a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. Nice bull flag here. I will have to say I was very impressed that this bull flag set up and has been holding and actually broke out to the upside a little bit. Quite impressed by that in this kind of overall bear market. So Jose says, I bought Bitcoin at 9,800, Monero at 330. Is it better to sell it, cut loss now, or wait for price to go back up? Well, the price is rallying now, so if you do want to sell, wait until the rally's over and then sell. Jesse asks, I've seen your prediction for 3K, but do you think we keep going down? I don't know. We'll see what happens then. Usually these things go in capitulation move fashion on the spike down. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens down there. My thoughts really don't matter, to be quite frank with you. The only thing that matters is the market action. So, yeah, that's about that. To make some quick cash over the next week, what number would you buy? What number would you sell? What would you do? I understand you're not a psychic, but your own advice. Really, Ahmed, I don't have numbers like that. We're in a bear market. I really don't want to personally trade the bounces. Your best buy here really was on this big breakout. Unfortunately, it happened before we went live. The first breakout is always the best breakout. That's a general rule. So check this out. Okay, let's get out of the 15-minute, go back to the 2-hour. So your best short was up here. Okay, this is your best short. Even this is a decent, pretty much anywhere on this leg is a good short. Shorting down here gets risky because you're down so far, you don't know when it's going to consolidate. And then, so let's say you bought on the break of this pattern. Let's say you shorted on the break of this pattern. It's a risky trade because while it did drop, if you didn't take profits, all that, anticipating a much lower move, all that profit would have been dried up within, the course of a day or so. So the first break is always the best. And these bounces in the bear markets like we have here, I don't think this bounce is going to have a big leg. Now keep in mind I said I don't think. It doesn't mean it can't happen. We can go up here on some lower volume, consolidate, and then if we have a decent flurry in volume, then just pop up higher and have a pretty decent run. But I can't tell you that's going to happen. And the more I talk, the more I guess my subconscious thinks about it. But a breakout of this resistance area probably would be a decent place. If we had a nice consolidation here, you could potentially buy off of that breakout. And then in terms of a sell, I don't know, let's just throw some strategy out here. So if we break out of this realm, wherever it breaks out of, maybe a 6% bounce into the rise of this to where this broke down. I mean, that maybe could be okay. And of course it drops all the way back to the bottom. All right, I'm going to go to the bottom again, ladies and gentlemen. Repost your questions if I missed them. And keep them pointed. Give me specifics so I can go ahead and try to go through them quickly here. How do we know when the rally is over, Real Crypto? We know the rally is over when the next round of selling begins. So let's take a look at this. So obviously we were talking about the market potentially going bullish coming out of this cup. When it came down, we were talking about a handle. When that handle failed here, we talked about the market shift. So here's your cup, here's your handle, here's your breakdown. I mean, you could really say it broke down earlier, but I'm just going to call it here because of the massive volume that came in. Usually your key is volume. Usually your key to market change is volume in correlation with price. So that's really how you know. Like, the reason I don't think this rally will definitely sustain itself is because the volume here doesn't really break any trends. So Scott says, if I knew an ETA, you know that sell now and rebuy at 7,200 or get left behind. Well, that's why I have this square up here, my friend. So I do know an ETA, and if you knew anything about actual trading, you would know that you don't know everything. You don't know everything. So while this may seem like a decent place to short or sell, and it could be, you do generally go with the trend until the trend is over, So, that's my strategy, my friend. I kind of wait for market confirmation. Um, I don't think my opinions are made of gold, and my excrement doesn't stink. Um, I don't think that at all. So I let the market tell me what to do. I don't tell the market what to do. Do I still think Bitcoin is done? Well, the term "done" is relative. I think in the immediate to intermediate term, it's done with its uptrend, but I don't think it's done forever. No, not at all. Ride the track. Was wondering if you could tell us what you think would be the main features in the USD market, which would identify us as being past the capitulation stage. Capitulation is the signal. I mean, that's it. There's no other signal past capitulation. There's capitulation, there's not. I don't know what you mean by ETH becoming a top-heavy coin. I don't know what that means. What would my ratio to what what would your ratio be on predicting the market correctly as opposed to being wrong? Great question. So I would say on the daily time frame, I'm probably over 75 to 80% accurate, to be quite frank with you. And the reason that's even so low, to be quite frank with you, is basically I miscalled this right here, and I miscalled that as the top in Bitcoin right there. Completely miscalled it. That was a fail on my part. That was a fail on my part. So, looking at it in real time, I thought that was the upside capitulation move. Biggest volume ever. Doji day, big sell bar. But then actually I made a video here, and between me making the video and the close of the day, the market reversed. And I actually failed to believe that it could go higher. That is a psychological failure on my part. But all my calls pretty much down here have been dead on. But that frustrates me from a personal perspective, that I didn't shift my viewpoint. I didn't even participate in the market until we were at 17,000. And then I bought at 17 and sold at 19,000 just to make a trade to feel better about myself. I felt like complete garbage as we rallied up because I just didn't participate. So everyone has a mental block from time to time. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But on a larger term time frame, my calls are very accurate. When it gets down to the shorter term, I'm probably as accurate as everyone else, a little bit less. A little bit less. What do you think about Litecoin Bitcoin ratio, possible third cup and handle? I'm not sure about a ratio, and you didn't give me a time frame, so I'm just gonna pull it here on the 1, 2, 3 or something like that. Is that what you're referring to? Give me a time frame, and I'll go ahead and revisit that. What's your advice for riding the trend? Although I often have good entries, I tend to sell too soon. Yeah, that's a problem a lot of traders have. I even have that problem from time to time. I sometimes sell too soon. Read a little bit into a bar. You never do know. The key there is really having a defined strategy. Really having, if you're not happy with how long if you're not happy with the fact that you think you're selling too soon, go back, review your trades, and just basically revise your strategy. Figure out how you ended up selling too soon so you cannot do that again. A lot of trading, ladies and gentlemen, is about, in fact, 80% of trading is about personal responsibility and understanding your flaws, your failures, being truthful to them, and being willing to change. I bought the breakout at 8,400. Isn't the profit zone 8,560 to 8,850? Good specific question. Let's go dive in, take a peek. You bought at 8,400 up here, okay? 86.50 to 88.50. So here's 86.50, kind of right where the top of my range is here to 88.50. So there's no specific profit taking range in my mind. 88.50. Are you looking at these two lows? Is that what you're looking at? Yeah, I'm curious how you derive that, those two numbers, because this is the 87.80, at least on the GDAX, if you're trading on a different exchange, 88.50. So there's 88.50 on that low. That could be a decent profit taking. This trend line may give you some resistance, though. This trend line may give you some resistance, and if this pops up here, that's 87. Let's just call it 87.50. So kind of within your profit taking range. That could be a good range to take profits. So Jose asks, why compare altcoins to USD? Don't we need Bitcoin to buy and sell the altcoin? Yeah, in most exchanges you do. I have a lot of money on GDAX, so I can sell directly into the dollar between Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. So yes, I think if you're trading on the other exchanges that you can't trade against the US dollar, it may make a little more sense to use the Bitcoin chart, because that's really if you want to consider that your base default. So yeah, you definitely could. I'm not saying don't use the Bitcoin chart. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I use the US dollar charts because it's a more solid baseline. I get a feel for what the coin is doing, versus if you look at something versus Bitcoin, you have to take Bitcoin's action into account. Because if Bitcoin's tanking and your coin's rallying, you're not really making any money. Because like you said, you have to sell it into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's tanking, your coin's going up versus a declining asset. So, that's why I like to compare against the dollar. So Contron has a good question. Let's say Bitcoin hits 3,000. What's your plan? Keep trading as it rises, or just hold? I'm thinking holding until next parabolic run. I'm kind of thinking the same thing there, Contran, to be quite frank with you. I think a vast majority of my money I will have a very long-term trading strategy. I won't hold willy-nilly, to be honest with you, but I will have a trading strategy, and I will follow that strategy. But that strategy will be a very long-term strategy, and that's kind of how I'm going to do it. But I'm going to plan on holding for the next parabolic run, at least till we get to 20K. How do you know if the trend is over? Always catch it too late. It's usually a big candle down. So the problem with cryptocurrencies and catching those trends, AJ, is the fact it's a 24/7 market. I've missed my past 3 signals because I wasn't at my computer trading. Okay? And I don't feel comfortable yet. Maybe it's just me, but so this is the thing. Like, I'll say, okay, what I should do. Let's take this breakdown for an example. Okay, I didn't notice it until we were, I think here in the pattern. I think I was asleep. What I thought to myself was, we have this rising trend line here. We have a nice horizontal action right here. What I should do is I should just put a market short order in right here. Okay, just because if I'm asleep and it breaks down to this point, then we're obviously going back into the bearish trend. And I didn't do that because I generally have a fear that the market's going to reverse against me. That's in my head. That's a little bit psychological, but it can happen. And I trade highly leveraged positions. So if I did that and it reversed, I would get wiped out, and then it would probably continue right back down again. So I like to be at the computer. You need to understand trend changing behavior, okay? You need to understand the market cycle that you're in. Like, we're in a bear trend. This is an intermediate term rise, okay? And then we're going to break that because we're in a larger term downtrend. So this would have been a good strategy in hindsight. I would have had a great entry point, and I would have been able to ride it all the way down to this low, having a massive profit, but I didn't because of the risk involved. The risk involved of me not sitting there trading it live in case it reversed. Whether that's good or bad is what it is, but you have to understand the market cycle, and the trend reversal will typically happen So, here for an example, bear market trend continuing. So if you consider this the reversal, okay, this the reversal, then you see the market weakening, okay, or you see the market strengthening. Do you see strengthening or do you see weakening? Maybe that's kind of what I'm trying to say. You want to see the market momentum move and shift. I don't like that it jumps down on me like that. Can you provide a prior example of downside capitulation? So um, capitulation by definition is the giving up, of the other side. Okay, now generally everyone wants the markets to go up, me included, believe it or not. And so the sellers, the people that are selling, are the ones that are capitulating. Okay, they're the ones giving up their coins to you, potentially the buyer. This is capitulation. Huge volume is capitulation. This is a vast majority of whoever selling a crap ton of coins to just selling and giving up. So, if you think of capitulation in terms of war, when you're fighting, when you stop fighting, you choose life. When you're fighting a war, you have an option of, you have a 50-50 chance of winning or dying. Capitulation comes into play when both sides choose to live. Okay? When there's been enough dying and both sides choose to live, that's capitulation on the battlefield. In crypto, life is rising prices. In trading, life is rising prices. So once the sellers give up selling and choose to get out of their short positions or selling and choose, normal again, that's when the trend changes. And that's what these capitulation moves are. All these big green volume bars here are capitulation. When you miss an uptrend, what would you do? Ooh, that's a great question, AJ. So your job is to not miss the uptrend. That's your freaking job, to be quite frank with you. I miss uptrends sometimes too, to be honest with you. I miss uptrends, and this is something that the stock market has over the crypto market, okay? Crypto trades 24/7. It's so hard to be there when everything moves. Like, it's just so difficult. It's just so difficult. But if you have proper technical analysis and don't have, if you're not trading like a leverage position like I am on my shorts, like if we're back here in the bullish market and we have this nice line right here. If you just want to put a conditional buy order in here, I'm not mad at that. Do that. Put the conditional, read the charts, do the analysis. You want in here. Guys, this is where you want to buy, right there at $2,866.322670002. Like literally, you want to be that specific with your entry. Okay? You don't want to willy-nilly. If you've done the analysis, if you've done the work, if you've put in the homework and you know what you want to do, you just have to do it. Wholeheartedly, you just have to do it. Put the order in. Done. In a bear market, I have a very hard time doing that because bear markets are very unpredictable. Sell-offs occur at any moment in time. So it's really hard to put blind money to work in a bear market. It's just really hard to put blind money to work. But generally, you don't miss the uptrend, AJ. You don't miss it. That's all I have to say about that. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. If you do miss it, look for a secondary buy point. Look for a secondary buy point. That would be a base, a consolidation, some type of pullback or reversal. But your first entry is always your best entry. Here's another one. Always your best entry. Your first entry is always your best entry. Every entry after that gets more and puts more and more risk on the table. Do we have a Telegram group? I don't actually have a Telegram group. I have a Slack channel. I actually don't. Is Telegram different from Slack or Discord, or is it just another version of a chat room? I actually don't know that. Um, so question, can Bitcoin 19,000, is it impossible until new money comes in? Could it be accomplished with current traders? Um, yeah, I think it could be accomplished with current traders, to be quite frank with you, because Bitcoin is a closed ecosystem and it can't, like if the whole community decides to stop selling it, the buying can move it higher. Um, but generally, it's going to take new money to come in to have that happen with any kind of steam or time frame or something like that. Like it's not going to rally back up to 19,000 with no new money with any kind of good time frame. Ahmed, thanks again, buddy. Thank you very much, Randy. Have a great weekend. We'll be listening. Hope to buy a little Bitcoin before the next breakout and sell swing slight profit within 72 hours. Okay. Work your plan, my friend. That's all I got to say is work your plan. Have a plan. Work it. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, oh well, have a well-defined stop loss, and that's trading. My Slack channel, you can actually go to my website and sign up for my Slack channel. Go to my website, real-crypto.com. Here's where you can sign up for the next week's Power Hour if you want to. You can sign up for the newsletter, which I've never sent. I've never sent a newsletter. I do so many Bitcoin videos. But at one point, I'll start putting out some newsletters, and you can sign up here. This gets you into the Slack chat room. Oh, I do want to mention something. A member of mine mentioned that he saw a spam email go out. I want to get to this so I can show you guys. He saw a spam email go out. Basically, sorry, I'm trying to find it. It used a Gmail address. It was realcrypto835 or something like that. If you guys see an email from me, maybe thinking it's my newsletter, it's going to be something very official from Real Crypto. You're going to know it's from me. And I'm never going to, here we go. So here, right here from Brad Mully here, I'm never going to ask anything of you guys in an email ever. realcrypto825@gmail.com. If you guys see that, please delete it. Send it to spam. Don't even open it. If you see an email, it's going to be from randy@realcrypto.com. Okay? I just didn't think I was important enough for people to try to scam, but apparently I'm getting there. So, bad part about being a little known. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, my friend. I will talk to you later. Have a good weekend as well. Where do I think crypto is heading long term? So let's talk about long-term crypto for a minute. Long-term crypto, let's talk 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. 5 years from now, crypto is fairly similar to what it is today. We have Ethereum working with applications. We have Neo working with some applications. We have Lumens working with some applications. We have ADA starting to do something. And we have a little bit of divergence in the market. 10 years from now, 90% of these coins won't be here. Okay? Litecoin will probably be a preferred method for payment. Bitcoin will kind of be the gold. 10 years from now, I think Bitcoin will probably be stable at, $40, $50, $60,000 a coin. 20 years from now, I think Bitcoin's still around. I don't have a price point for Bitcoin. Litecoin, is still doing good. Maybe Bitcoin does some technological changes, and as Bitcoin and Litecoin running money back and forth, along with Monero and stuff like that. And then 99% of the coins out here today aren't going to be around, and we're going to have a whole new generation of blockchain technology that you and I can't even think about. Where's my Slack channel? I think I addressed that. It's on my website. I think I addressed that. On my homepage, actually. Sign up for the newsletter and get the Slack channel. Could you help me identify where I should have entered the current Bitcoin Cash to take advantage of this uptrend? Yeah, sure. So your best entry, I mean, to be quite frank with you, I mean, this is kind of a crazy entry. You usually don't see entries like this um, very often. Your best entry was this candle. This candle, somewhere on this candle was your best entry. Reason being is because volume increased. If you noticed that we had, selling over here, volume declined, and volume continued to decline to very low levels, and then we had a nice big green volume bar with a nice big green price bar taking out some prior areas. But this was really your best time. Okay, Telegram is better because the mobile app allows you to be part of many groups. So you have much more clientele join the Telegram over Slack channel. Okay, maybe I'll look into that. Look at Bitcoin Cash. BitPay and Bithumb have agreed to push billions of dollars to Bitcoin Cash. I don't know what that means. Like they're trying to, is this going back to the point where they're trying to make Bitcoin Cash the new Bitcoin? Is that kind of what that's referring to? I do want to say this though, Bitcoin Cash looks like it wants to break this trend line right here. So we may get a little rally here, maybe over the weekend. Maybe we'll get a little rally. Bitcoin Cash pumping a little bit. Bitcoin looking okay. Ethereum doesn't look good. Doesn't mean it can't rally though. And then you got Litecoin still living under this, also not looking good. I don't know. So let's say you catch the uptrend. Would you put a stop loss? You see those big wicks to the down. Those can activate if you do and ruin your trade. Yeah, AJ, that's kind of the curse to cryptocurrency is that a lot of the moves are faded so quickly. It can be very frustrating. When those downside wicks happen. So, I mean, if you take... So first of all, I mean, this is a very important base for Bitcoin, okay? This was the first real test of the trend, and when it broke out, it never looked back. I mean, it did come down and retest. It did come down and retest here. Yeah, so it did come down and retest here, but still never quite made it down to this exact best buy point. These downside wicks can take you out. You just have to be willing to get back in. I would always set a stop loss. You never know what's going to happen. But if we get into a bull cycle again, ladies and gentlemen, when that happens, you have to stay with it. You just got to stay with it. But you should have stop losses in place. Your capital is the most important thing. But always get back in. Don't be afraid to re-enter a trade. That happens time and time again where... You'll get into a trade, it'll go with you really well, it'll go against you, and then you'll get stopped out, and then it boom breaks out again. So, you have to think of it in terms of people buying and selling, not just blindly looking at the chart. The psychology behind that is if it comes out of a breakout point, someone wants to take a profit, because they don't think it can go higher, they sell it and bring it in, and then someone else thinks, yeah, it's going higher, MRFer, so they buy it and take it higher again, and you're left being whipsawed. But in the end, the last move wins, right? So you just have to go with it. DGD. Well, from my understanding, DGD's been performing pretty good. So we talked about DGD yesterday, and we were right here. I remember it. We were on this candle. Look at that. That's good mouse control. We were on this candle talking about DGD, and what I mentioned about DGD is that if you look at DGD historically, I hate that about that one. If you look at DGD historically, it always retraces most of its move. So unless you're really early on a breakout with DGD, Never buy it towards these highs because you're going to get chopped around. You're just going to get chopped around. Now, since this candle's been put in, we've been chopping around, not really diving lower. So let's take a look. So we have this big wide base right here, okay? And right now you actually have kind of a well-defined form of a symmetrical, well, I guess not a symmetrical triangle. You've got a double top right there. You've got something similar to that forming. Okay, it's really early in the pattern. Really early in the pattern. So if you want to buy DGD, to be quite honest with you, I would consider buying it fairly soon. Let me dive down a little bit deeper. So this is what the power hour is meant for, ladies and gentlemen, getting really deep in the charts, coming up with a strategy, figuring out how to trade, setting stop losses, taking profit targets. This is the power hour. So what we see is we have high, high. We kind of have rolling over highs a little bit here. They're starting to roll over. This looks like it's going to go down a little bit in the short term here. Although that is a big red candle. So somewhere down here, maybe good buy point, maybe for a bounce up here for like a 10 to 15% profit. I wouldn't hold this. I wouldn't consider holding this though for a longer term breakout. If you do, it's going to be further on in this pattern. This pattern may even break down. It doesn't look normal. This doesn't look like a normalized pattern. Jan says he sees Bitcoin Cash going down. What was I seeing then? Oh, it spiked down right after I said that. Keep in mind that there's a 20-second delay, so maybe I just barely caught the top. But this was a fully green candle when I said, oh, it looks like it may want to test this trend line here. Maybe break out and do something. No, sold off. That's funny. If SEC would go against ICO and altcoins in the USA, would that affect the Bitcoin price in the world? No, not at all. I don't think ICOs has anything to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is basically, I almost view Bitcoin as the world's psychological view of blockchain technology. You know, outside of speculators like you and me, I really view it as that kind of bastion, that ambassador for cryptocurrencies. It's kind of that ambassador for cryptocurrency. So, like, if Bitcoin, if for whatever reason blockchain technology just ended up being trashed and garbaged and hacked and this and that and the other thing, you're going to see Bitcoin just collapse. And that's because the world basically gives up on blockchain. That's not going to happen, but that's kind of how I'm viewing it here. Okay, so Juan says you did what I said in CND, so let's look at CND. They're a favorite on my Binance. Okay, I just did what you said in CND. I saw there was a pump, then there was a lower volume, and as soon as I saw the volume in the green candle, I entered at 9:31. Are you looking at the minute time frame? Okay, here. Yeah, so right here on the minute time frame. So yeah, that's a very good example of how to enter a trade like this. That's a very good example. So yeah, nice. You got volume. If you do this on a daily time frame, if you can do this on a daily time frame, you can be a multi-million-dollar trader. That is how traders make money. Is by entering things kind of similar to that. Now, not my favorite chart pattern, but we're definitely in an uptrend. Definitely in an uptrend, okay? Now, your best buy, I'm not saying your buy is bad, but obviously it would have been lower. You see how we have this kind of area forming out and going flat here for the longer term. You have all these kind of peaks forming here with the lower highs coming into play. Now, this is a 1 minute time frame too, so notice you kind of see the same setup right here, right? Look at that. Look at that buy right there. Boom. So remember when I said your first buy is your best and everything after there is a little more risky. So that's your best buy right there. That's a pretty good buy though. That's a pretty good buy. You're not too high, right? it's, it's already kind of moved up. Good job. Very good job. Always take profits. Lesson learned, Christina says. What were you talking about yesterday, Christina? It was, what was the coin? Was it like ONO or something like that? I think there was ONO or something like that. Yeah, like I said, there's about a 20-second delay in from when I talk to when you guys can respond. So ONT, there you go. Did that collapse or something? Ooh, there you go. Let's go down to the 15-minute. Yeah, I think we were talking about it. Were we talking about a cup with handle? This chart doesn't look like the same chart to me. Just doesn't look like the same chart. Were we over here? Anyway. Yeah, always take profit. So here's the thing. Here's the thing with this particular run up right here, right? So I forget exactly where we were talking, Christina. I'm sorry. Maybe it was over here, but when you get up higher, and we're starting and then it starts to roll over, there's like a number of places to take profits. There's a lot of different selling strategies, right? Lots of selling strategies. So here's one, just taking it off of that trend line. And I have to be quite frank with you, ladies and gentlemen, when you're in these altcoins like this that pump, you have to be fairly aggressive with your selling, especially in a market like this. Especially in a market like this, you really want to take those profits off of the table. And you were down at 1650. Yeah, so if you bought that, you still did pretty good. Yeah, here's your cup. I think we talked about a handle. So you still did pretty good. I mean, you may have lost a few profits up here, but it looks like you may have been profitable. The Coinical asks, what is the death cross? The death cross is when the 50 period average crosses under the 200 period moving average on the daily chart. So we don't have a death cross in Bitcoin. Here we go. Oh, there you go. Nice. It did save something. Cool. So right now we have the 200 period in purple here, still below the 50 period in blue here. The death cross will be, and it's going to happen, the trajectory won't change now. It's going to happen in a few days here. If you just take these two and just continue their trajectory, because there's no move in the market has really done anything. So it looks like that death cross is going to happen right March 25th. That's almost guaranteed. You know, March 24th, March 25th, we're probably going to get this death cross. Now, a lot of people will exit the market on the death cross. And, you know, maybe this rally kind of goes up into that 200-day and fails. That's why my last video really talked all about the 200-day. And I didn't mention the death cross. Maybe I should have. But I hope I made my point with a lot of people. Oh, I was comparing it to BNB. Oh, you know what? I do that sometimes when BNB is on there. I don't realize it. What was that? ONT. That's why that looks weird. I'm sorry about that. Hey, that looks much better. There's my line I drew. Sorry about that. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, the font's a little bold, so they look the same. I always click the first one. It's just muscle memory. Yeah, here's the cup with handle. That makes more sense. And then we're still gonna have, darn it, we're still gonna have that trend line. So you're still gonna have this overall trend line. So that's just one sell signal that you can take on. You know, so that's just one sell signal you can take on there. There's other ones to be had as well, but that's a pretty good one. Now, yeah, you probably could have anticipated a little bit of sell off up here just by understanding price action. I'm not going to go too deep into that, um, but yeah, so that's a good sell signal right there. And now, actually, if you look at it, let's take a look at this thing. So I'm on the 15-minute, and this is the 200 period moving average, the purple line. Notice it broke out, tested the 200, testing the 200 here. So it looks like it's getting some support and getting a bounce. There you go. Michael David, Bitcoin going to 2.5. FUD equals real crypto. If that's what you consider FUD. And so fortunately in the Real Crypto Power Hour, we will go ahead and be able to talk a lot about charts and less about emotions or how to get over emotions. Am I seeing descending wedge on BY? Is that BYC? Is that a real coin? Oh, crypto says Binance had a ON. They had a, yeah, Binance had a pump for ONT and then it sold off. Nice. BYC, you did mean BYC. I thought you meant Bitcoin for a minute. Ascending wedge on the 1 hour. You mean a descending wedge? An ascending wedge is where it goes up. Like an ascending wedge is this. Oh, go away. An ascending, I gotta get going, ladies and gentlemen. That's an ascending wedge. A descending wedge is the opposite. So that's a descending wedge. That's an ascending wedge. Yeah, there's a descending wedge here for sure. Yeah, for sure. Looks like it wants to go lower. Very low float coin. If you're gonna play this, coin, have a very, very small percentage of your account in it. Can it go higher after testing the 200-day moving average? It could, Christina. It could bounce there, and it could continue higher. It's definitely possible. Definitely possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, Real Crypto Power Hour. I got to get out of here, otherwise I probably stay for a few more minutes. I have an appointment in 45 minutes I need to get ready for. So, thank you guys for joining me. Again, if you enjoy the Real Crypto Power Hour, you can sign up for it here at the Power Hour. It's $50 a month. We'll be doing things every day, even on weekends, talking about whatever you guys need to go ahead and improve with your trading and just kind of learning trading, real market strategies, going over portfolios, all this stuff. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you guys tomorrow for the Power Hour. We will be doing it on Saturday. My kids are going to be in the house, though, so maybe a kid or two will pop in. Can't, I'm doing it at home, so I really can't stop that. All right, guys. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.